Welcome back to another Workshop Wednesday. This week's edition, we are talking about tracking your traffic in Google Analytics. And of course, that means Google Analytics 4 now. Before we go too far, welcome. If this is your first Workshop Wednesday, my name is Chris Mercer. Everybody calls me Mercer. And whether you found us through our podcast and talks, maybe through some of our other platforms that we share a bit of our content with, or maybe you're already a full-fledged member, whether a free member or an Academy member over at measurementmarketing.io, however you found us, we are happy that you're here. It's our job to help you understand how to learn all this stuff. And of course, we have the Measurement Marketing Academy over at measurementmarketing.io to help you to do all of that. Now, we always have the one thing slide, and this is the whole point to this, is to make sure that you're not getting overwhelmed and frustrated, because these tools are complicated. There's a lot of moving bells and whistles, and tracking your traffic is one of those things that has a lot of different parts to it. So just focus on one new thing that you learn from this workshop. Maybe it's how to actually do that. Maybe it's the structure of doing that. Maybe it's the why we do that. But you practice this one new thing that you've learned, then you come back and rewatch this workshop, pick up another new one thing, and that is how we build skills without being overwhelmed and frustrated. All right, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Tracking traffic in Google Analytics 4. Let's go ahead and jump right in. Now, of course, we're going to relate it to the framework. We plan, we build, we launch. Why? Because we're all measuring in the blind, and we really want to be getting to the point where we can reliably produce revenue and profits from the marketing efforts that we're putting in, and measurement's going to help us to do that. How specifically does today's training fall into the framework? Well, in the plan, we have to think about the questions that we're asking. You're probably going to be asking questions around which traffic sources are causing which results, and you're going to need to actually enhance your builds so you can get answers to those questions, because that's the information that we're going to need in order to get those answers. And of course, you're already going to have actions that are ready based upon if the answer's, good, bad, or just right, so we'll have that planned out. Then you move into your actual build. Now, we won't focus on this today. This is where you set up your key events, the different conversions, the goals, that sort of thing, the things you're trying to get done from your marketing, what we call the ACE results. Then we make sure the traffic is being properly tagged so that it's tracked by Google Analytics 4. The specific key is what we're going to talk about today in getting this part done. At that point, you should have a nice connection between which traffic is causing which results, which is what gives you the natural story back there. At that point, you just listen to the trends and patterns that your users are leaving behind in your measurement system. And then once you have those basic trends and patterns, you compare them against the forecasted trends and patterns that you thought were going to be there. In other words, now we can start answering the question, is the marketing working like it's supposed to? Well, how do we know? Well, is the website working the way it's supposed to? Are they going through the journeys the way they're supposed to? Are they going through your funnels the way they are supposed to? Are they opting in the way they're supposed to? And of course, you are just constantly comparing against your forecast. That's what will tell you where they're hitting the mark and where you're not. And that's where you can then take your optimization step, which of course you've already planned out when you made your measurement plan in the first place under that actions part. So that is the measurement marketing framework in a nutshell. And specifically, again, dead set in the middle where it says traffic, that's what we're going to focus on in this workshop. Now, we're going to focus on three main areas. First is the why we are doing this. Then we're going to talk about what you actually do to get it done. And then we're going to talk about how you should actually be doing this to get the most from it as we are going through and tracking our traffic in Google Analytics 4. First, let's go ahead and start with the why. Why are we doing this whole thing in the first place? So really, the way to think about this when we're thinking about okay, what do we need to do to, track traffic, right? And this should not be what, this really should be why do we need to track traffic? So when we're thinking about that, you have all those traffic sources coming in. Maybe it's an email that's bringing them to your website. Maybe it's an ad, you're doing some ads or some social media posts that are bringing them to a website. Maybe it's you're on a podcast as a guest podcaster. Maybe it's your own podcast and that brought them to the website. Maybe it was a text message that brought them to the website. Maybe it was a webinar that brought them to the website. Maybe it's a YouTube video that you did that brought them to the website, or TikTok or anything else. Any of these other, when your users are outside of your website and they come to your website, you're going to want to ask questions around that traffic. Did it produce the result you needed it to produce? So you need multiple components. First is obviously you need your traffic sources figured out. You need your website built. And finally, our buddy Google Analytics has to be installed on your website. So whether you're doing that through Tag Manager or through the Google Tag with Google Analytics 4, however you get it on there, you want to make sure it's there to listen, because it has to record the information so we can get answers to the questions that we're asking around our traffic, so that we can take the actions we want to take in order to optimize things if things aren't working right. So that's kind of the main reason we're doing this. Now, why we're tracking traffic is not just so we can get it to show in the reports, but I want you to see how Google Analytics 4 currently works, kind of by itself, by default. And then we're going to talk about the other why, like, what else can we see if we do this right? So we're going to pull up our teaching property here at measurementmarketing.io, and we've got our Google Analytics. Now, this is the traffic acquisition report. This is the one I feel is the most useful for this. So we're going to use this. You can also just search up here, traffic acquisition, to pull it up if you can't find yours. But here I've got ours pulled up. Now, by default, it shows us the default channel group, and that's okay, but it's very general. Like, here's the direct traffic, in other words, untagged traffic. Here's the search traffic. Here's unassigned traffic that it couldn't figure out. Here's referral traffic from other sites. Here's email traffic it thinks, but it's super generic. I don't really find this particularly useful. So what I do is I switch it to session source medium, because I want to be able to see a little more detail. And this is something that, especially if you've got some experience with the older versions of Google Analytics, you probably are much more used to seeing this, the source and medium. So the source is really just the brand name of the traffic source, and the medium is where it's coming from. So let's talk about what Google Analytics 4 does on its own. Well, first, it will do what we call organic traffic. So what organic traffic is where Google Analytics is thinking, okay, I know they came from a site, and that website brought them to the, this site, your site in this case. It knows some other website brought them to your site. But it also knows, it has a list of different websites that it knows are search engines. Obviously, Google.com, Google knows is a search engine. So if you came from a website called Google.com, it's going to treat it as organic traffic because it knows you came from that search engine, or Bing, or Baidu, or Yahoo, or DuckDuckGo. And you can see this is what we have currently. So any known search engine, Google will automatically call it organic. And you should never use that word for anything else. Organic always means search traffic. So just leave this alone. Google Analytics 4 does this on its own. Right? You don't need to worry about that. There is another one that it will do on its own, and this is where it calls it referral. So what referral means is this is all these other sites that are bringing traffic to your site, but they are not search engines. So they know there are other websites, they're bringing traffic to your site, but they're not a search engine. There's some other site that referred the traffic to you. That's why they call it referral. And so you can see, we've got some referral traffic from these courses and, CXL and other stuff coming through. So that's referral traffic. Then you have, and again, Google Analytics will do this on its own. Then you have the dreaded direct none traffic. So that is where Google's basically saying, listen, I don't know where they came from. They just sort of showed up. And this will happen a lot. As an example, and if you watch what I do in my browser here, so I'm in my browser window. If I type measurementmarketing.io, I just started typing it. The browser auto-completed it. Well, as soon as I hit enter, to Google Analytics, it's going to look like, oh, I'm just showing up, right? I just typed it in directly. So sometimes that happens, and that's a legitimate use of direct none traffic. They really came directly to your site. But a lot of times, this could be traffic that maybe you sent an email. And think about this. Maybe if they're on Outlook or they're using something like that to check their email, you're on this platform called Outlook, you click on a link, it opens up a tab in Google, and all of a sudden, you just sort of show up. So that's also going to be under direct none, unless you tell it that it's not direct none traffic. And this is where we're really going to get into the next steps of why this is so important to tag it traffic. Because I can do things like this. I can say, well, show me podcast traffic. And then here's all of our podcast traffic during this date range. I can say, show me my email traffic. And I can see all the different email sources that came through. I could say, show me, let's see if there's any webinar. I don't know if we have webinar traffic during this time frame, but let's see if there's any speaking traffic coming through. There's some speaking traffic that we got. This is when I'm on stages and speaking traffic coming through to the site during this date range. And again, I haven't spoken on stage in a while. So it's like, this is still bringing traffic to us, which is why I like speaking on stages. But if I wasn't putting this stuff in here, making it show this, where it showed speaking, because that's what we decided to call this, it would show up as direct none. And I would not be able to answer the question, hey, did that talk I did when I was on Agents of Change, did it create traffic? Did that traffic actually sign up to become a lead, or whatever the result was that I was trying to get from it? So that's why this is so important, because if I don't put this stuff in there, and I'm just going to X this out so you can see everything else, I can't tell that there's YouTube social traffic as an example. It would just show YouTube referral, but I can't tell it's YouTube social traffic. I can't tell it came from a short link on measure.tips. I can't see if it's test traffic that I'm sending myself, just testing stuff out. I can't tell if it's partner traffic coming from Infusionsoft. In other words, our affiliate partners that are out there helping us to promote measurementmarketing.io. So these are the things that I can see that maybe you can't. And this is why it is so important to learn this skill of how to track traffic. If I don't do this stuff, then I'm just going to be stuck with my organic traffic, my direct none traffic, and then any referral traffic that it picks up. But a lot of this traffic, the email traffic, some of the short link traffic, the partner traffic even, if I wasn't doing this, the test traffic, stuff like that, if I wasn't doing this, it would show up as direct none. And then it's harder for me to see the results from all of my different traffic efforts. So that's kind of why we want to be able to do that. Now I'm going to flip back, and before we dive into the how we do all of this stuff, let's talk about the questions that we want to answer around our traffic. And for me, there's really three big ones, and there's like a couple of extra ones. I would always start with the big three, and then when you get some experience, you add on the other two. That's kind of how I think about this. So always get good enough to get going. So the first thing I want to really know is the brand, right? What is the brand of the traffic? So is it coming from Facebook? Is it coming from Google? Like, I think that's an important thing. The other thing is I want to know the type of traffic coming from that brand. So I want to know it's Facebook traffic, but I want to know it's CPC traffic, meaning paid traffic, or is it Facebook traffic, but maybe it's social. I might call it social, the type of traffic, meaning not boosted. I'm not putting money into it. Kind of like we do with YouTube. We don't do a lot of ads on YouTube, but we do YouTube as our brand name of the traffic source because it is coming from YouTube. And we call it social because this is just us sharing these workshops with you, and that generates traffic called social traffic, but we're not boosting it. We're not putting money behind that traffic source. So that's an example there. Now, between the other things that I really care about, it's this one. And this one really rules them all. Purpose. I really care about the purpose. I want to know that YouTube sent me traffic. I want to know that it was the social traffic that YouTube is sending me. But I really want to know, why was YouTube sending me that traffic in the first place? What was it supposed to do? So in other words, we think about this like the customer journey. What customer journey was it? Were they was YouTube in this case delivering people for? And then eventually you can start to measure other things like, the headline or the subject of the click. With YouTube, it might be the specific workshop that they clicked on, something like that. And then other details you can put in. So sometimes we'll put in there what the purpose is. Like, are they, or not the purpose, but the end result that we're trying to get, the ACE result. So are we trying to make them aware of the journey? Are we trying to get them to complete this journey? Are we trying to get them to engage with this journey? Like maybe a retargeting audience might do, things like that. So again, I'm not going to worry too much about these for the purposes of this tutorial because they're a little bit extra, but I wanted you to know that they're there because you can do more with what I'm about to show you. But when you're just starting out, if you have no experience with this, really focus on the big three. What's the purpose? What's the source? And then what's the type of traffic coming from that source? These are the big three that we're going to focus on. All right, now that we have that, let's go ahead and talk about the what. Like, what do we actually do to get it from being in an email and then actually having it show up in Google Analytics that it identifies itself as an email? So how do we actually go forth and we do that? Well, we're just going to continue the journey here. So we know we want the purpose, the source, the type. We know we can get other information like the headline or other details we want to capture, but how do we actually do that? Well, this is how analytics gets this information. Now, for now, just to keep it a little easy, I'm going to take these out or move these down because these you wouldn't start with. We're going to start with the big three. Always the big three. Keep it simple. Remember, when you're doing measurement and you're learning this stuff in the beginning, remember the phrase, get good enough to get going. You can always come back and make it better later. So we're going to get good enough to get going. We first need to identify what the purpose is, what the source of the traffic is, in other words, the brand name, and the type of traffic coming from that traffic source. So how do we do this in Google Analytics? We do this with UTM codes, and you're going to hear us say UTM codes or UTM tags or UTM parameters. It all is the same thing. It's all these little things that start with UTM and then underscore. Now, where this comes from is, and you can Google this, you can do exactly what I'm about to do, just like UTM builder, you can just do that. It's pretty simple. And you'll see this is the first link. This is actually Google's link. So that's why it's always the first, of course. There's lots of different tools to help you with this. We also have some in the members area that can help you with this. But I want to show you just like the basics of it first, and then I'll go into some of the other tools that we've got for you. So in the campaign builder, we're just going to type in just an example here. So it's like, mysite.com. And then at this point, it says, okay, what is the source of traffic? We're going to skip campaign ID for a moment. What is the source of traffic? What is the medium of traffic? What is the name? Also notice these asterisks. These are the big three. These are the ones that are really sort of required. And that's where I would start with. So here, it's like, okay, the campaign source. Now, what do we mean by source? Remember, the source is the brand name of the traffic source. That's kind of what we want to do. So what's the campaign source? So I might say, okay, well, if this is an email, we use Infusionsoft. So because we use Infusionsoft, it's coming from Infusionsoft. So I might say it's Infusionsoft. Now watch what's happening down here. Right at the very bottom here, you see what it's automatically sort of building my link, which is why they call this a UTM builder, URL builder. So here's my little website that I put on there. And then I'm just adding in UTM underscore source. It's putting in Infusionsoft. But if I was doing a Facebook campaign, I would type in Facebook, right? And you can see it automatically changes right down here. So we see that. So for now, I'm just going to click it back to Infusionsoft because we're going to be practicing for email. If you're doing MailChimp, you might say MailChimp. If you're using ActiveCampaign, you might call it ActiveCampaign or Klaviyo or whatever the system is that you're using. So for now, again, I'm just going to use ours as an example. So we have Infusionsoft. Next is the campaign medium. Now, this is a confusing word. I don't like that they use words like medium, but it's been around for over a decade. So we're going to use that word too. But the medium is really just the type of traffic. That's all it is. It's the type of traffic coming from the source. And you can see here, source goes with source, medium then goes with medium, with the type of traffic, I should say. So that's how we get it in there. So it's the only word that you sort of have to just remember. Medium really just means type. Just default it to that. So if I'm doing Infusionsoft and I'm sending email traffic, like an autoresponder or a broadcast, I'm going to say email. It's email traffic. That's the type of traffic. But if it's coming from my partner system, which our affiliate platform is actually also handled by Infusionsoft, Infusionsoft would still be the source for that affiliate traffic, only now we would call it partner, because that's a partner traffic would come through. And that's how we do all of that. But in this case, I'm just going to call it email. So it's email. And then there's the campaign name itself. Now, what is the name? Well, the name is this up here, this UTM campaign. And this is really just the purpose of why you were sending traffic in the first place. What's the journey? What's the customer journey? That's how I think about it. What's the funnel they're going through? Something like that. Keep it kind of basic and simple. So for us, if I'm sending an email from Infusionsoft for the purposes of getting someone to maybe move through the Measurement Marketing Academy journey, because we want them to obviously purchase the Measurement Marketing Academy and get access to all those lifetime courses and everything else, well, then I will do Academy, because that's what we call it. We call it Academy. So that's what we do. So we're going to say Infusionsoft is the source of traffic. The email is the type of traffic coming from Infusionsoft. And the Academy is the journey that they're on. This is why we're sending traffic to the site, so they can continue somewhere the journey through the Academy. Now you will notice here's our site. And then here's a little question mark. That's just what you do when you add parameters to the end of URL. And it's UTM underscore source equals Infusionsoft. And because you're adding a parameter, UTM underscore medium equals email. That's how that's getting in there. And because we're adding a parameter. And then there's UTM underscore campaign equals Academy. So now all I would have to do is just copy this, and I'm going to paste this up here. So this is your link, and you would just in your email system, whenever you set up a link and it says, oh, click here to go here, and you set up the URL, you would just, instead of saying you're just going to put in your site, you would put in everything here too. So you add in all of this. So it's like, hey, take them to my site, but also add these other things to the end of the link so that Google Analytics can listen for those and understand that it came from Infusionsoft. It was an email from Infusionsoft for the purposes of the Academy journey. And that's how this works. Now, very quickly, I want to answer a real quick question I do get asked at this point. Do I need to always use the campaign builder? No, you don't. I think you can do it in the beginning until you get used to it. But literally, if this was me doing this, I would do something like this. I would say, okay, let's go to measurementmarketing.io. Let's pretend I'm going to send them to the homepage. I would then do a question mark and I would type in the thing that I'm setting up. So if I'm setting up a link for, let's say, YouTube social traffic, I might say, okay, well, the source is going to be YouTube. I'm just going to type that in. And the medium, meaning the type of traffic coming from YouTube, that's going to equal social. And the UTM campaign, let's pretend, again, it'd just be for the Academy. So I would just type that in. And then what I would do is I would grab this entire link, and this is the link that I would put in the description, right? And say, oh, click here if you want to learn more about blah, 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 blah. So that's just a way you can do that. Just as a pro tip, you can also set up redirects, which is what we do. So you don't see these big, giant, long URLs in our YouTube descriptions. You see a little short link there. But when you click on that link, look at where it redirects to and look at those parameters, because you will see those parameters on there. And that's how we're doing our UTMs. When we come in to our source medium reports, we see Infusionsoft email or YouTube social. That's why we do that there. Incidentally, if I come in here and I hit the little plus sign and I type in campaign, I can add in and actually see the session campaign as well. So I can see all three values. So I can say, oh, look, here's Infusionsoft email for the purposes of Academy. Here's YouTube social traffic for the purposes of Academy, right? Here is a test traffic that came in from Rika that was testing a part of our team. Here is Infusionsoft partner traffic, the affiliate traffic coming in for the purposes of the Academy. So I can see very clearly and quickly what the purpose of all these different traffic sources are. I cannot do that unless I do those UTMs, and I have those UTMs in there. Let's talk finally about the how to properly structure these, because I think a lot of individuals in the first part, at least it was like this for me, I didn't even know UTMs existed. So it's already a win if you start using UTMs, however you're using them. It doesn't matter, just start using them. You know, ideally start with the big three. You can add in others later, but we're going to keep it basic on this workshop. So just start using them. That's a good win. Because in the beginning, you don't even know they're a thing. But pretty quickly, I would move into structuring them and coordinating them so they are telling a story. So we're going to learn how to coordinate, and I want to talk about how to actually coordinate them. All right, so let's go take a look. Now, we had our UTMs, right? We said we can just take these links and we can link them to wherever, whether it's an email or an ad or whatever. Again, if this is an ad, just to give you the little pro tip, it would be Facebook. I would say it's CPC traffic now. And if it was for the purposes of the Academy, I would take this entire link, and this is the link I would put into Facebook. You know, and there are different places. Don't get me wrong. This is not a Facebook training course. So in Facebook, there's a place you can put UTMs, a little URL parameter section. That's where I would add the UTM parameters. You just add them there as separate things. So every platform is slightly different as to where you put these, but they all use them. They all can use UTMs. This is super important. So you're going to use UTMs. Now, how do we actually structure them, coordinate them so they are working together? So this is how I structure it. It's how I would suggest you do as well. I have one main funnel or one main label, let's say, for every customer journey that we've got. So we've got the customer journey for the Measurement Marketing Academy that moves somebody from an unaware prospect to a happy member, right? That's kind of what we're looking to do. There's that journey they have to go through. So we call that journey Academy. We just use that one word, and we use it all the time. So if there's an Infusionsoft email that's supposed to send them to the Academy, that's what we're going to do. In fact, I'm going to take these other ones off here. This is the extra stuff you can always add in. We're not going to worry about this for now. Again, a little more advanced, so we're going to skip it for this workshop and just keep it basic. I think it's super important. Get good enough to get going, come back and make it better later. So we're just going to talk about the big three here. But the Academy, so I have this first. So I've got my Academy campaign, and every single UTM, meaning where I have the UTM _ campaign, it uses the same word over and over and over again. The reason that's important is because if I have then Infusionsoft traffic that happens to be email traffic from Infusionsoft, I can then put that under Academy. But then what if I send email, which I do? I will reply to email from different questions I get or students, and I'll say, hey, you should go check out the Academy, and I will link to the Academy, and I have my own email. That's why they're both emails. Some come from Infusionsoft as autoresponders. Others might come directly from me or one of our support team members where they are UTMing themselves. So we can see that individual, imagine this being your customer support and being able to see, oh, are they buying because the autoresponder got them to buy, or are they buying because they're asking questions to customer support and customer support is getting them to buy? This is kind of how we use this. So both are the same email traffic, so that stays the same. And that's the reason that is important, is so that I can come down here and I can say, well, just show me email. I can type in email in the search box and I can say, just show me all my email traffic. And it's like, oh, well, here's Mercer email for the Academy. Here's a Junko email for the Academy. Here's an Infusionsoft email that was designed for existing members, not to get in the Academy journey. It was just for them to use the membership, right? And then here's an Academy journey for email. So I can see all my email traffic and the different sort of purposes and journeys of that traffic, which is really nice. It's easy for me to be able to see what's going on. I can see the story a lot clearer when I do that. So that's why that is so important. All right, then we do this for the podcast traffic. So when we do a podcast, we just set up a redirect that says, okay, well, if you've heard about us on perpetual traffic, it's probably like, go to measuremarketing.io/perpetual traffic or something. I don't remember what it is offhand, but it's a redirect that redirects to a link that has all the UTMs on it, except of course it would say something like perpetual traffic, might be what the source is. So I know the podcast name. And then it's what type of traffic is it? It is podcast traffic. And then what was the purposes? In this case, it's probably for the campaign, but maybe it was the toolbox or whatever else. So we'll change that. But there's our link. So this would be the link I would redirect to. That's all. So there's but it's podcast traffic. Then I do it with another podcast, like the Say It Online podcast. Well, the only thing different there is everything would stay the same, except it might say instead, Say It Online, or whatever the name of the podcast goes here. Everything else stays the same so that it is coordinated, right? Everything's starting to fit together as little puzzle pieces. And then we do the same thing with paid traffic. So if we're using Facebook, we'll call it CPC for paid traffic. We do Google ads, there's CPC for paid traffic. This is how this starts to work. But then all of this is coordinated together under one purpose, which is now I can go into my Google Analytics and watch this. This is what gets really cool, because your analytics can only do what it can only give you the answers that you've sort of allowed it to give you, right? That you've built it to be able to give you back. So we've built ours to be able to answer a question like, and I'm going to close these out here. I'm going to flip this to campaign, and then I'm going to add in here and say, I just want to see my Academy traffic. So everything that is just for the purposes of the Academy. And then I want to see the source medium, right? With everything that contains that. So there's session source medium. There's all the different Academy traffic. Everything is united under the Academy, but here's all the different traffic sources and the different types of traffic from those sources that are pushing traffic in through the Academy funnel. This is why this is so important. This is specifically, this little thing that says MMIO and resource. You know what this is? These are all the PDF ebooks and everything else that we created in the toolbox that people are clicking on the links in those resources, and they're coming into the Academy page, and it drove traffic to the Academy page for the purposes of the journey. Here's the Social Media Examiner podcast that I was on. So here's Facebook traffic from CPC. Here's speaking traffic when I was at GA Forward. And this was an event, as of this recording, that was almost 6 or 7 months ago. I'm still getting traffic from it. Isn't that good to know? Here's my emails that I'm individually doing. Here's another podcast we got when we were on Pat Flynn's Smart Passive Income podcast. And again, this was 6-8 months ago that we were on this podcast, and still it's generating trickles of traffic. This is why we do podcasts as a traffic source, because we realized that all this podcast traffic was very long tail for us and would continue to bring traffic years after the original podcast was done. Pretty cool what's possible there. So you can start to see that I can see a much clearer understanding of all my different traffic sources and how they are coming together. And of course, the different types of traffic from those sources, how they're coming together to be able to produce certain results, which of course you would just set up. Now, we're not going to go into the how to do that here, but you would just set up the conversion events for the different sources that you're trying to track to see the results you're getting from your traffic. But again, this is just all about tagging the traffic properly. So there are all the workshops we have in terms of setting up your ACE results. But that's it. That's why this is so important to coordinate here. And again, just use the big three for now. Eventually, when you get used to the UTMs, you can add in your UTM term and content, they call it, and you can start to add in very specific things that then further identify certain elements that you might be asking questions around. But I really like keeping the builds simple in the beginning. I think get used to, again, good enough to get going, get used to things. Then you come back and make it better later. All right. With that, what was your one thing? Hopefully you've got a bunch of them. One is just the idea that you can do this thing called UTMs. A lot of people, that's in the beginning, they don't even know that's a thing. So now you know UTMs are a thing. The second thing would be, cool, now let's start using them and start with the big three: source, medium, and then the campaign, and get all those situated, start using those. Might be that you already have been using those, but you weren't coordinating them. And if you're not coordinating them, it's going to be harder to see a natural story in your Google Analytics 4. So then just start to coordinate them. Use them under the same campaign. Instead of calling one thing email and another thing an autoresponder, call everything email. Call one, just so that way you can see all your email, your type of traffic under one thing. Finally, before I go too far into this, I would ask that you subscribe to this channel. So if you like this video, you like this workshop, subscribe to the YouTube channel, because I think that's going to be an important thing for you as a resource. We like to provide these. And of course, we'll leave updates as things get updated. But the real reason is because the framework course itself is currently available to you because you're watching this video. We do allow you access to that for free. You just get it through our Toolbox membership. So we actually talk about this entire strategy as a whole 3-hour course we have over it of how to do all of this stuff. And it is in the Toolbox. One of the things I'm going to show you, all of the Toolbox stuff is currently free. If you're watching this video, you're going to see a link that you can use to get to it. But the traffic tracking toolkit is part of the Toolbox. I'm going to show that very, very quickly. I'm going to show a couple of things here. So in the members dashboard, this is for those of you who have access to the Win courses already. There's the Google Analytics 4 Basic course, there's a whole bunch of courses obviously back here. But the Google Analytics 4 Basics course, it's about 5 hours long, about how to use analytics and why and getting the most from it. In there, under the results and traffic is a topic that talks all about this. It's the UTMs for measuring traffic. So this is a 40-minute lesson back here that you can go back and rewatch this topic if you need a little more help on this. That's where it'll be, so you can see that. If you are an Academy member or even a free member that's back here, you have access to the Toolbox. If you go all the way down, at least currently, this might be subject to change, but at the bottom here is where you see the traffic tracking toolkit. When you click on that link, it will take you to the toolkit itself, and you can download it. It gives you a whole spreadsheet you can use to type in here's my sources, and here's my traffic types of traffic that we use, and here's our journeys and our funnels that we use. And it'll help you build and coordinate things a little bit better back there. So that's also available. Remember, if you do not have access to the Toolbox, you can get that for free with our Toolbox membership, which is what I was showing here. Now, really, the Measurement Marketing Academy is your best bet. We are obviously selfish and very biased when we ask you to do that, because this is how we make our money. But that stuff aside, it really is, in our humble opinion, one of the more beneficial programs that are out there, because we show you the tactical how to use the tools, but we also show you why. We show you the strategy. And there's very few courses that are out there that really talk about the how to use this, the why to use this, the strategy thinking behind stuff. Because let's face it, these tools change all the time. It's hard to keep the courses updated on which box do you click to do what thing. But that's not even the hard part. You can Google that stuff. What's really important is, why do you check that box? And what is the thinking behind using that box in the first place? That is why the Measurement Marketing Academy is so important. So I encourage you to take a look at that. Either way, if you go to measure.tips/Get Academy, it'll take you to that page so you can learn more about what is there. Also, we do now have a recent update where all the courses are lifetime. You get lifetime access to all the courses, including the updates. You also get lifetime access to what we call the Winner Circle community, which is a whole other support area that you get. And we're giving you an additional bonus with the Ask Instructor support system. You get the Measurement Mastermind now. You get additional clinics and boot camps as we teach those live. You're going to get invited to those and all sorts of live training in the Measurement Marketing Classroom. So there's a lot back there. Again, measure.tips/Get Academy to learn more. Specifically, put that in there and see where it goes. So you can look in the browser window, you'll see the UTMs of how we are using UTMs to measure our own traffic. All right, with that, we'll go ahead and bring this one to a close. This has been Tracking Traffic in Google Analytics. Thanks again for watching this workshop. We'll see you on the next one. Take care.